Join the Cougar Collective today, your home base for all NIL opportunities, connecting student athletes, fans, and business owners. Join the 1890 Club for as little as $18.90. You can also make a one-time donation. And if you're a business, you can collaborate your brand. Also, drink the Old Crimson Legendary Lager brewed by Pike Brewing. Sales benefit the Cougar Collective. Visit cougarcollective.org. Go Cougs! This is going to be a real doozy, I'm going to tell you right now, of the Old Crimson Cougars podcast. I mean, we don't have to do it if you don't want. This is technically the last one we'll do, but I'm sensing we'll do some emergency ones as the off season will continue. It's all brought to you by the Cougar Collective, your home base for all NIL opportunities, connecting student athletes, fans, and business owners. You can join today, hashtag Mighty by Many, and supporting student athletes on and off the field. As we've talked about many times, join the 1890 Club for as little as $18.90 a month. You can also make a one-time donation. If you're a business, you can collaborate your brand. You can also go drink the Old Crimson Legendary Lager brewed by Pike Brewing. Sales benefit the Collective. Visit cougarcollective.org. On your screen, if you're watching on YouTube, that QR code will take you right to the Cougar Collective donation page. Also, big thanks all season long to Andy Largent, Flat Stick Pub, Cougar owned and operated, 6 amazing locations across the state: Kirkland, Pioneer Square, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. They got you covered. Date night, ladies night, guys night, large group event. Great place for the kids, and of course, great place to watch and sometimes celebrate the Cougs. FlatStickPub.com. Paul Sorensen, you can follow him on social media. Paul Sorensen 28. He was a legend back in the day, All-American safety at Washington State University. And Jim Moore, the go-to guy. Follow him on social media at CougsGo.
We don't have anything to freaking talk about. Jesus.
Yeah, what? I don't know. You just want to open it up right away. Opening thoughts. What the F happened, man? Paul, what happened?
I didn't see you guys at the game, by the way. Just was curious. Were you at home scratching the sack, or what was the deal?
I was on vacation. I was
sitting on the sidelines. I knew you were on a beach drinking Mai Tais or some floofy.
Where would you rather be? Sitting on a beach or in freezing conditions?
I would have liked to have been sitting next to you guys.
Oh, let me interrupt you for a second. I got to be honest with you. I felt bad. No, I've never done that before. I just want to explain myself why I wasn't there. I can't believe not being there. And then about, what was it, like 7 o'clock that night, I was happy as hell I didn't go. Okay, does that make me a bad Coug? Probably.
No, it doesn't. But, let me just put it this way.
First of all, can you fix your beanie?
What the hell happened to your hat? Did somebody sit on it?
You look like a hobo.
I'm not going to fix my beanie,
please.
If I wear it the way it's supposed to be worn, it'll be over my AirPods.
No, just fix.
Not over the AirPods. Are you from Paris?
Just fix the upper part.
Do you have an MG that you drive around in?
Who cares? I just look old as shit no matter what I'm wearing anyway.
Looks like you're under I-5.
What do you want? You want that?
Yeah, that looks better. It looks just like my hair now, Jim. Yeah.
Sorensen, you look like shit, too.
We're the old shit dudes sitting on the porch.
Sorensen,
the people walking by.
Paul, what happened?
Okay. All right. You ready for this? I got a great view because I was on the sidelines the entire time.
No, I'm not just the Wyoming game. I'm just the last month of the season. What happened?
Okay. Well, just a couple things. I want to explain what happened at the end of the game. We lost Gusta in that drive. Now, I will say this, okay? We bashed the defense the last 3 weeks, correct? We've been all over them because they haven't been able to step up and stop teams driving down the field, losing the game inside of 20 seconds. Okay? Same thing happened, except they only gave up 15 points. They had 11 tackle for losses, 4 sacks. Basically, what else did they do? They only gave up 15 points. Should have been good enough to win. Offense sucked, okay? Offense was terrible. Now, I can explain why the offense sucked. The one thing that Arbuckle does is he runs plays during the week. So they have scripted plays, whatever that is, 20, 30, 40 plays. They run during the week. They practice. They work on that. It's part of their game plan. It's what they run to try to attack the other teams. When you run out of those plays, you have to make adjustments. Not seeing adjustments. Washington State in 12 games, 7 of those games they did not score in the third quarter. Think about that. Didn't score a point in the second half. They went 7 possessions and went out. 2 turnovers. fourth down conversions they couldn't convert. They were 1 for 10 on third downs, throughout the game. They sucked. That game was lost because the offense didn't get it done. Now, were there opportunities to make plays? Last play of the game on the pick play where they had the touchdown. Great, smart play by Wyoming. And the timeout, I think, actually hurt WSU because it gave their offense a chance to go back. They ran a tray set with 3 receivers to the wide side. The first receiver on the outside ran a corner out, drove the safety over there. The 2 inside receivers, wide receiver was number 2, tight end was number 3. Wide receiver comes in, pick play, picks the corner off because they're running press man with safeties over the top. Corner gets cleaned, tight end runs a wheel, wide open, no pressure. Gusta can't play because he's hurt. He's been battling a bad foot all season. He limps off the field, can't finish the drive. Touchdown, we suck. We lose another game. I'm pissed. I'm swearing all the way home from Pullman to Spokane because I can't believe we just lost to Wyoming. But Wyoming outcoached us, out-hit us, and outplayed us defensively in that football game, and I give them full credit. Good for them. How was that? Was that a good kind of description on?
Yeah, it was fair. That was a fair assessment. Sounds like you did some show prep for Old Crimson today.
Yeah, that's kind of how I roll, Jim. I'm coming prepared.
I understand it.
I'm sitting here with no pants on. Is that okay?
Well,
lower the camera. I want to see your junk.
It's cold, Spokane.
Whip it out.
You don't want to go. You don't want to go there.
Whip it. Jim, what happened? Not just the Wyoming game. All right, I just want to know what happened the last month. I mean, we were a month and a half before the New Mexico game. We acknowledged it was a long shot, but it was fun to talk about. We're talking, we did a show after the college football playoff rankings. We're talking about, hey, my God, if they run the table, they'll have one loss, and they're going to be in the conversation. And then New Mexico happened, and it just unraveled.
Yeah, how many games did we luck out before that, though? Like, we got really lucky before that.
That's a great
Fresno
point.
State, San Diego State. I suppose you could even say we were lucky against Washington because they had a bad play call there. So, yeah, we were just living with fool's gold for quite a while there, and it caught up to us. But I didn't see it coming. Did anybody see it coming at halftime of the New Mexico game? I mean, we were just kicking their butts up and down the field. And, yeah, they were moving the ball. I understand that. But we were in position to blow them out, not get caught from behind and lose that game. And so, yeah, I can't break it down like Paul just did. I'm not looking at the X's and O's. To me, too, and I don't know how much this had to do with it, but after losing that New Mexico game, I think you lose part of the team there because you don't have that carrot anymore of the college football playoff. And we haven't really talked about that too much, I don't think. But
I think we did a little bit.
What were we playing for this year? What was our team playing for?
Not after that.
Relevant is what we were playing for. That's what we were, Jim, honestly.
But I do.
I mean, pride can only go so far. I mean, we all have pride and we want to, suck it up for pride's sake and all that. But especially when you're 18, 19, 20 years old, and then all of a sudden that night in Albuquerque happens, and then you go, well, shit, man, now what? I mean, we're going to go play the Beavers. And then we caught the Beavers, I thought, at a good time because, they'd scored 20 points in the last 3 games combined.
Shut out by Air Force.
And then they looked like an offensive juggernaut against us.
It was the best performance of the season. A quarterback that they hated is just passing the ball up and down the field on them at will.
Yeah.
At will. There was no answer for it. There was no answer for New Mexico.
Here's an interesting thing, too, guys. We were the hunted this year. I'll say this. We were the hunted. We're usually the underdog guys. We're usually the guys that are going against the SCs and the Washingtons. We were the beast this year. Everybody gave us our best freaking shot, and that shows you how hard it is to win in college football. And when you're the hunted, you got to play that much better, and you have to have guys that refuse to lose. 2 things I saw. We didn't see that, especially on the defensive side. You got to get those a-holes, like me, that refuse to lose, that don't want to, have guys scoring, do whatever it takes. There were guys out there playing hurt, playing, beat up and doing that stuff, but I didn't hear the communication that I wanted to hear on the defensive side, and I didn't see guys that were absolutely laying it out there at the end, and that bothered me, honestly.
No, yeah, Paul, I think you're right about that. Like, if you're New Mexico and Wyoming, you're like going, hey, man, what about us? You just kind of kicked us to the curb. We know you guys got kicked to the curb by the Pac-12. We did too by you guys, and we'll show you a little something here. Yeah. I mean, I was really impressed with Wyoming.
We talked about that in the beginning of the season. We knew this was gonna happen. This was gonna be the case. And going back to even earlier in the season. I mean, it's why, again, I don't mean to be glass half empty here, but it's like I just had a bad feeling. I knew they were going to kick a game because of how, and we did talk about San Jose State and Fresno State. I mean, those games, they were extremely lucky. They were fortunate not to play Texas Tech without their best player.
Yeah.
The concerns of that defense were evident week one against Portland State. It was all there. I mean, just people forget about it because the offense was unbelievable, and Mateer was unbelievable. But the writing was on the wall. I know what they did defensively against Wyoming. Paul, I'm just not going to give them credit for it. That is one of the worst offenses in college football.
They had a tight end playing quarterback is what they had, basically.
It's awful. And they allowed that awful fucking offense to go 90 yards on them.
Yeah, I know.
And then we're clueless on the last play what to do. Nigel Burton is talking about when they took a timeout, is down on the field going, I don't know what they're trying to do. I don't know what they're doing.
Man. That's exactly the defense they should have been in.
But
they had guys in their face trying to deny the quick pass with safeties over the top and reading the quarterback.
But he's talking about they're in cover two with no drop. They're not in position. Guys aren't even there. They're not even close to the guy they're guarding. I mean, that's on the players, but that's on coaching and all of it. And it's just, I don't know. It was maddening to watch. Jesus, could we?
It's so romantic. You're such a beautiful couple.
Sorry.
That's just love and butterflies. That's what Ben will do for
you. I'm so
you,
handsome that she needs to kiss me all the time.
God, you look like you're in a homeless center. What the hell,
so
man?
there was just concerns all year long defensively with these guys, and again,
Well, and I will say this.
Puck, I agree. Let me interrupt you for the second time, Paul.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'll keep track. I'm writing this
Paul,
down.
I agree with what you had to say with the Cougar defense giving up 15 points. I mean, that's all well and good, but I mean, if you're the defense,
given up two.
If you're the defense, you have to hold them on that drive.
I know.
Like Puck saying that was
what I said about 90 yards getting hurt.
And you know what? We're going to hold up
one.
Hey, tonight. We're going to hold up our end. We haven't held up our end this season, but by God, the offense didn't do it tonight, and we're going to step up for them this time. And they couldn't do it.
I would agree with that, Jim. And I'll say they had two bad penalties on that drive that basically bailed them out. One on fourth down, it was just a bonehead hold. I saw the play, and he just grabbed the receiver and threw him down. It's like, what the hell are you doing? Yeah. You don't have to do that. And so my concerns were the communication, the whole defense, period, okay, and the fact that you didn't – Wyoming out-hit us. They were more physical defensively than we were, and that bothered me. And so there were a couple of big old flags that went up. Jeff Schmedding's my friend. He's unemployed now. His family is toast because they do not have a job. So there are ramifications for this thing when all those lovely little warriors on the internet want to get over there and blast it. You didn't lose your fucking job this week. He did, okay? And that's the price you pay in college. Yeah. So I agree with it. And Schmeds agrees with it too. He's going to end up landing on his feet somewhere. He's going to get a gig. It's just the way that it is. But it sucks when you got 18 to 24-year-old kids and you can't put those guys in the right position and they're not stepping up when they have to. You can't play the game for them, but you got to do a better job of making sure they're in a place to make plays. Sure. And again, that's the issue that we had this year.
And I don't think it. Yeah, and I don't think it's all just on coaching. I mean, I think it's a large part of it this year, but I think a lot of it, I think Jake Dickert's got to own it.
Yeah,
and he's the head coach, and he's a defensive coordinator. So
Are you talking to him this week?
I think next week.
Next week, okay.
Yeah, I wanted to get through the portal opening.
Yeah. Boy.
Oh. Yeah, that's what I wanted to wait. I wanted to wait till we get through the portal.
Can we just get kicked in the nuts again? I mean, have you ever been during a season where there was such highs and then absolutely when I saw that pass hit that tight end in the chest, I 4th and 14 and you can't make a play?
Yeah.
I was so crushed. I mooned everybody all the way home to Spokane. My buns were cold. That was a cold drive. But I mean, it was just so depressing. And the fans and the guys that were there, everybody was just crushed. Man, it's hard to be a Coug fan.
Well, it's just it's what I said. It's agonizing because I compare it to watching the Seahawks the next day, and I'm thinking, you know what? They're going to make a play to win the game. When I watch us play on Saturdays, I go, no. How are we going to screw up? And when they got the ball back, when we didn't do anything, on 2 straight turnovers, and they got the ball back to go 90 yards, I'm like, I just know how this is going to end. I've seen this. And we just let them, we let them hang around. But they've been doing that all year long, letting these teams hang around when they could have taken them out. And I think you mentioned something earlier, Paul, about the physicality and size. That's the one thing that really startled me. And I know we've talked about this before. And it's not just this game. It's the San Jose State game. It's the Fresno game. When they've lined up with some of these teams and you look at and you go, we're not even bigger than them. I was blown away by that. Really blown away.
I was disappointed. Kyle Williams was open. He was open
criminal.
All day, dude.
Criminal.
How do you not game plan to one of the best receivers in the country? And here's the other thing. Mateer, whether he stays or he goes, and I'm hoping he's staying because that's just me from that perspective, he's got to work on his fundamentals. He's got to stay in the pocket. He's got to buy a little bit more time to give his receivers a chance to get open. As soon as he started to scramble, the receiver is 10 yards behind the freaking corner. Yeah. And he can't get him the ball because he's going the opposite direction. Get a quarterback that's got fundamental help with this new OC or QB coming in and help Mateer when he decides to stay. And you know what I would do if I'm John Mateer? I'm going to walk into that locker room after that game and I'm going to get everybody around me and say, hey, guys, here's the deal. I'm fucking staying. I'm staying for another year. We're going to go and we're going to get in the playoffs and we're going to compete next year. And I challenge every one of you guys to do the same thing. That's leadership, and that's what I want to see.
Well, I mean, that brings us to the question. I mean, Arbuckle's gone. He's gone to Oklahoma, 3-year deal. I know there was reports also, Paul, you talked about it.
Utah was in the mix. They were negotiating back and forth between those two schools.
So do we think he's a package deal? Do you think Mateer gets in the portal and jumps to Oklahoma?
No. He was recruited by Morris. Arbuckle had nothing to do with him coming to Washington State. And
but he's thrived the first year. He's thrived.
What do you think their relationship was like, though?
I think it was good. Anybody that's ever played from a position of if you I didn't like my DB coach other than Jimmy Burrows, but he was an assistant defensive back coach. That's he was great. But Harold Wheeler and I did not get along. I know you find that hard to believe because I used to argue a lot. I don't come across that way. I'm sure Jim can relate to that, but we battled. The D coordinator and I battled because if you're going to stand up and you're a leader and you're a captain, you've got to fight for stuff. It's not going to always go easy. I think John had a good relationship with Arbuckle. I don't know it for a fact because I'm not sitting in the meeting, but I don't think it was unicorns and butterflies, honestly. And just because he left doesn't mean that that's an automatic with John.
What does your gut tell you, though? I talked to John
Canzano. I think it's 50-50. I talked
to John Canzano this week, and he thinks he's gone.
And that's Canzano sitting in Oregon. That's fine.
Sure, but I'm sitting in Seattle.
Yeah,
and truthfully,
I'm in Spokane, and
there you go. You are, and Jim's in Bend. He's even further away.
Yeah,
but if you ask me, and let's bring it to a gambling perspective, something that Jim and I know, I would bet that he's gone.
Yeah, but Puck, you've been hopeful. We've all been hopeful.
I'm hopeful.
We've all been hopeful, but it's Paul. I appreciate what the Cougar Collective is doing, but if we're looking at it realistically, I mean, whatever our 6-figure offer, I believe that 7-figure offers are more than 6 figures, and if the reports that we're hearing out there are true, I mean, that kid, he might be the best quarterback in the portal. I mean, look what he did through the air and running this year. They're going to get into bidding wars for this kid. And it's one thing to be loyal to your coaches and you can say, hey man, you guys were the only ones that showed faith in me when I was coming out of high school. And I really believe in being a Coug and I'll always find my way home and all that stuff. But if someone's offering me, as much as I love being a Coug, if somebody offered me 1.5 and we're offering 600,000 or whatever, it's really hard to turn that down. Especially when it's a program maybe in the SEC or closer to home in Texas. It's just going to be tough to compete with that.
Let me just jump in there, Paul. And I think that's the last point you bring up, too, is this. I think he wasn't highly recruited coming out of high school. And when I interviewed him this week, that you could tell that bothered him because he believed in himself. He's like, yeah, I'm one of the best quarterbacks. It was a personal challenge. You go back after the Texas Tech game, I'm telling you, that when he had probably his best game of the year, it was personal to him. That was the school that didn't offer him, didn't want him. And so I think part of maybe his motivation, besides money, of why he would go in the portal is, I think, to prove those people wrong. Yeah, I could have played at a bigger program. And let's just be honest. Let's say Oklahoma comes calling. I mean, it's Oklahoma. I mean, we're talking about one of the blue bloods of college football. If they wanted him, I mean, that's that's hard to turn down, because I think all of us inherently, we all have an ego, all of us, and I think his ego would be, I'd like to be challenged against the very best.
And well, I can vouch for where he came from, because Cal was where I wanted to go. I was a Bay Area guy,
yeah,
and I didn't. All my friends went there, and they didn't. I had a bad game. They came and watched me, and I didn't get the opportunity, so I wanted to shove it every chance I had to play Cal, and we beat them twice, knocked their best receiver, Booza, out right in front of the coach, and smiled at the coach, said, yeah, probably should have recruited me, huh, dude? And he goes, who the hell's that guy? Anyway, it doesn't matter. But the point is, with regards to that's just me.
No, I enjoyed that story, though, Paul.
Yeah, it was a wonderful touch to me.
With regards to Mateer, from that perspective, he's going to have kind of a trip across the country in every single conference except the Big 12 next year, okay? Which is cool. So he gets to play the ACC, the Big 10, the SEC, gets to play the Mountain West, the WCC, gets to play the Pac-2, that kind of stuff. And here's the other deal. This is the thing that people forget. You have to remember Cam Ward played 2 years and started 2 years. This is, remember, Mateer's first year as a starter, okay? And he's got a lot of improvement on things that will make him a better quarterback that will be interesting for the next level in the NFL.
Sure.
But Cam Ward then had that extra year that he could leverage, either go into the NFL or do the Florida State Miami thing and walk out of there with a bag. He's going to get a bag this year. He has another, great year. He graduates from WSU. He can still do the transfer portal and still accomplish all the things that he wants. It's just, a decision. And I think, Jake Dickert's the kind of guy that sits down, and if it's stupid money, he's going to probably tell him to take it. And just say, our next guy up, we'll go out and recruit, and then they can use that. Your two top quarterbacks in the portal the last 2 years are Cam Ward and Mateer. That's got to be something, from a recruiting standpoint. But I still think, and I'm an idiot from that perspective, and Jim, you can relate to the idiot side of this thing, I still think he's going to figure out a way to stay there, because we're going to put together a package that won't be as good as the other ones, but we don't have sales tax in the state. We're not losing 10% on an agent that's taking your money. There's a lot of other things that come into play that way. And there's no guarantees, even if you're the big money guys that go in there. Look what happened to Ugalele, or whatever his name was, from Oregon State that went to Florida State.
Nailed it.
Ungalunga. That guy,
perfect.
He ended up throwing for barely 1,000 yards, and he was toast. So no guarantees that you go on and have the success like you had at Washington.
No, there's not. And his not, and he's being represented by a family member too, right? It's not. He doesn't have like a true agent.
No, he doesn't. But the people that come in that are trying to influence him, those influencers, I guess, they get a piece of the pie.
Sure.
I appreciate what you said about Cam Ward being the top guy in the transfer portal and Mateer this year, but imagine that on the recruiting trail, going out there with your recruiting pitch. Hey, come play for us for
2 years.
1 year, and then you're gonna get a better deal. We're gonna give you a truck and Miss Huddy's barbecue, but you're then gonna go to a bigger school. So come into Pullman. Yeah, I mean, I don't. Yeah, I understand the point. Hey, I just think that I think it's going to be a much tougher decision.
I think if it's stupid money, he's going to have a hard time.
Well, it's like what
How do you blame the guy?
Honestly, no one should blame him.
No one would.
It's like Dickert said last year with Ward. He told him, if you get this type of offer, you got to go.
Yeah,
that's what he said to him. So
Jake and John have a really good relationship. I mean, they're tight that way, but money walks. Bullshit talks, baby. I mean, it's just how it is.
Money walks and bullshit talks.
It's money talks and bullshit walks.
I think of bullshit when you're talking.
Bullshit walks and
money talks and bullshit walks.
Something
Jesus
like that.
Christ.
Jim Moore's bullshit,
Get the
Sorensen talks.
Thing right. Let's
trying to be so creative there, Sorensen.
Yeah, just stop.
But I effed it up like I normally do. So we're used to it, okay?
Are you guys hold on. Go ahead, Jim.
The big picture thing with losing the 3 games at the end. I mean, it had bigger ramifications than just for this season, because I just think it's going to be an exodus in that transfer portal now.
That's what you said last year. You said the same thing last year, man. You did.
Yeah, we lost, 7 in a row in the middle of the season?
We did. And how many guys? You had 2 players. You lost Kelly to Texas Tech, and you lost Ward. The other guys were backups that weren't playing anyway. And you're going to lose backups that are not playing anyway, they're going to enter it, so it's going to look like an exodus. But look at the true starters. And look, Gusta has already said he's staying. So if he stays,
what about this bowl game? Does anybody give a damn about the bowl game other than Puck mentioning it's going to be the Holiday Bowl in San Diego?
They have the chance to go to the Holiday Bowl potentially, or the Vegas Bowl, and nobody and everybody's pissed that they're going to go to those two games when we would have given our soul to go and be able to play there, and we did. Yeah. It was awesome.
It's just not the same. They just totally they don't view it the same, and that's the problem. Is like who you get through the portal, but I'm just trying to think. They don't really have anyone that would opt out other than there's no NFL guys. Other than guys that would go in the portal. So it's not like an Abe Lucas situation or Max Borghi or Dayon Henley. They don't have those guys this year.
Okay, but if we reached a point where you might opt out because your next school you're going to play for says, hey, man, we'll give you the money, but
I would say
we don't want you playing in the bowl game?
Yeah, but I think they'll jump in the portal first.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to opt out and then be like, I'm still on the team. I mean, if they did that, I would be like, take a hike. I mean, you're out.
And maybe I'm wrong about this, and I hope I am, but more and more I sense that if I'm a kid, and number one, if I'm thinking about going in the portal, the coaches always talk about how beneficial the extra 20 practices are or whatever. If I'm a kid, I don't want to practice in December after the way that season ended. I'm like, shit, man, I just want to enjoy the holidays.
You got a brand new indoor practice facility, baby. It's beautiful.
I want to go play some video games, drink a little bit, and
Well, and look at the guys.
Screw around with some co-eds.
Look at the guys that Washington State has had. You had Ward, you had Kelly, you got Williams this year, Cal Lampkin, the corner, who went on, Dayon Henley, who's starting for San Diego. You've got some dudes that that had gone on and made a nice impact in the National Football League.
They lost a lot of. I mean, that's the thing with the
team. They lost a lot of talent on that, especially on the defensive side.
Let's welcome Jamey Vinnick of CougFan.com on. Jamey, welcome in. It's the Old Crimson Podcast. You know that. Jamey Vinnick's been covering the Cougs forever for CougFan.com. Hey, let's jump right into it. What do we know right now? Arbuckle obviously out. Jeff Schmedding now out. Arbuckle moving on to Oklahoma. What's the latest with John Mateer? What are we hearing over there? Is he going to enter the portal, or the rumors that he's going to do it? Rumors that he's going to stay? What can you fill us in with?
Excuse me. As of right now, I can tell you he's not in the portal. That's about as much as we know, and he couldn't be in the portal because it doesn't actually open until Monday. But it's all pretty quiet. I think, if you want to look into every little detail, John liked to post on Instagram last night saying that the fact that he was in the portal is false and fake news and all that. So if you want to, you can take that as a good sign so far. I think it's, it's going to be one of those where it's going to probably keep Washington State fans on their toes until either A, the portal closes at the end of December, B, he goes ahead and enters, or C, he comes out with a statement saying he's staying. So I think he's going to keep it as tight to the vest as he wants, and maybe stuff will leak here and there. But as of right now, there's nothing I have concrete or even non-concrete about what he's thinking, what his decision will be. It's kind of all the wait and see.
Okay, Jamie, what about the portal opens on Monday? How long is it open, that first part of the portal thing?
Until December 28th, so about 19 days.
Okay. Do you think it sounded like the post-game press conference? It sounded like he was fired up to play in the bowl game because he wants to atone for what happened against Wyoming and wants to send the seniors out on the right note.
Yeah, I think there is, you could look at it two ways. You could look at it and say, he said he's ready. He wants to play in the bowl. He wants to, kind of make up for that game, and not on him specifically, but just for the team itself. There's also the pessimistic side of folks who are going to say that's coach or that's player speak. He's just saying the right things to appease everyone. But I think it does say something that he did mention the bowl game. And, there have been scenarios in the last couple of years where guys will enter the transfer portal. They'll be heading elsewhere, and they'll still play for their team in the bowl game. I think it was last year. Dylan Morris was in the portal for Washington, but he's still suited up for the national championship game and for the semifinal. And granted, that's a little different than suiting up for the Holiday Bowl or what have you. But I think there's a scenario where even if he does decide to transfer, he might still play in the bowl. Of course, that's up to Washington State whether or not they would want that to happen. There's a lot of moving parts involved.
There's not a fucking chance if he enters the portal, he's playing in the bowl game.
I'm trying to
keep
all options open.
Way. There's no way.
Everything on the table.
Why would a school be like, hey, we're going to give you $1 million? Why don't you go ahead and play in that meaningless bowl game and tear your knee up? I mean, there's just no way. It's not Dylan Morris was never going to play. Yeah, okay.
Way to marginalize the Holiday Bowl, Puck.
Well, I love the Holiday Bowl. It's in my favorite city in America, but there's just no way, like, Ben Arbuckle, and who's the coach for Oklahoma? What I'm blanking on his name.
Oh, he's a goofy-looking dude.
Venables.
Hey,
John. Hey, John, it's Venables. Yeah, excited for you to come. Yeah, we got better barbecue out here, my friend, and we got $1.5 million for you. Yeah, you go ahead and play in that bowl game on Snapdragon. I watched that game earlier this year on a fucking turf that looked awful, so go ahead and play on there. We're happy for you.
All right, Jamie, we're going to get back
playing it?
Yeah.
Snapdragon Field.
Yeah. Shit, put it back in Jack Murphy. What the hell are they doing?
It's now a parking lot.
Yeah,
all right, it's my turn.
Yeah.
No, it's gone. By the way, Jamie, I thought you did a great job. Both your articles regarding potential replacements for the DC, cool. Which I like, and Puck and I kind of talked about maybe a committee from that perspective. I like the Bowl kid because he shoved it up our ass with Wyoming. His dad was outstanding as the head coach and also the head coach of North Dakota State. Is a giant killer and really comes from the defensive side. I love that aspect. And on the other side, on the offensive coordinator side, looks like there's a buyout for Arbuckle of about $460,000, I think, in terms of what I read, that he's going to have to pay back, which, the way that we're groveling for dough at Washington State is probably a good thing. So, leader in the clubhouse, you're the guy in the middle of this thing. You're writing articles on it. Tell us who your favorites would be or some of the names that have popped up maybe that might be interesting on both coordinator sides, offense and defense.
Yeah, and I'll preface by saying this is just this is all going off my speculation or who I like. Again, I think it's been so quick that there are no names I've heard floating around, but I like Mac Leftwich. The guy, he's at Texas State. He was coming to Wazoo with Eric Morris. Ended up going to Tech, got the OC job at Incarnate Word, moved up to Texas State. The thing I like about him is he involves still some air raid principles. It's still the air raid type scheme, but there's a lot more of a rushing attack than what we saw with Arbuckle or what we saw with Morris. I mean, Texas State ran the ball very effectively this year, not just throwing the ball. So he's a guy I like. I think Jason Beck at New Mexico is interesting. I looked at the way that he really schemed around his personnel where you realize Devin Dampier's maybe not a great passer. Okay, have him run a lot. Use his legs. Those are two guys that kind of stand out. And these are just names that I put on that hot board and names that have stood out to me. Not saying Washington State is interested or has interviewed him. I don't know that right now. But they're names that draw my eyes. Defensively, Nick Benedetto at Northern Illinois has ties to Dickert, has an absolutely fantastic defense. I mean, held Notre Dame to 14 points on their own field. Notre Dame averaged close to 40 this year. That was a explosive offense that he shut down. And again, has connections with Dickert, has a really good secondary, has developed a really good secondary. Aaron Bull's interesting in that the numbers on the surface aren't great. I mean, we talked about it going into last week. Wyoming wasn't a great defensive team. Okay, well, you just held John Mateer to 14. You held Ashton Genty to 17. You certainly know that he has the influence of his father, who was a great defensive mind. That's a name I think that there is maybe some traction to that of, okay, this could be interesting. The other name I'll toss out there is Jesse Bobbitt at South Dakota State. He was a GA at Wazoo for a couple of years. South Dakota State allowed 12 points a game this year, which actually was up from the 9 they allowed last year when he was the DC. That's obviously a program that's produced a lot of really successful coaches and players. My one concern with him would be their head coach, Jimmy Rogers, was the DC before. He laid a lot of that foundation. Is this Bobbitt, putting his own spin on it? Or did Rogers kind of put that all together and Bobbitt just took over? So those are just some of the preliminary names that I've liked at OC and DC. But obviously more names will pop up. And some of the names, again, I just threw out may not end up being anything more than names that I throw out.
Jim?
I thought it was your turn. Sorry.
Well, it's okay.
I'm still paying attention.
Jim.
I thought we were.
Jim.
I'm pretty sure Jim just fell asleep with his eyes open.
No. I'm just trying to, I don't want to keep interrupting everyone.
That's okay.
I'm saving a basketball question for the end.
No, we're not doing basketball. We're not doing basketball. It's a football show. We're not doing basketball.
I don't know about Cedric Coward. What's going on with him?
Hey, nice win last night. Way to beat Nevada.
Can we save it for another time?
They moved up 20 in the Palm Quest or whatever the name of that
Jamie,
hole is.
What about just Jake Dickert taking over and calling the defense?
I don't see any scenario where that happens. If you look across the country, even into the NFL, head coaches / defensive coordinators, they don't happen unless it's on an interim basis. Like obviously when Jake took over as the head coach in 2021, he also called the defense. It's just you'll see the head coach and offensive coordinator sometimes. Like obviously we saw with Leach, the head coach DC. It's too much, and I think head coach OC is becoming too much. I think it's Sonny Cumbie, at Louisiana Tech. They just said they're going to actually hire a true offensive coordinator. Between all the responsibilities of a head coach when it comes to managing the program and recruiting and putting the game plans and doing this and doing that, you just don't have the time or the resources to be able to fully invest yourself into also coordinating and play calling and scheming the defense and so on. I just don't think that's a realistic scenario. And quite frankly, I don't think Jake would want to even do that because of how much it would take for him to do both.
Okay.
Hey, Jamie, let me. I do have a question now, Puck, about Jake Dickert. I'm just curious. When we were 8-1, he had to be, to me, one of the hottest coaching candidates in the country with what he's done with this program. But after losing 3 in a row, not so much anymore. What I'm wondering, the frustration level of Jake Dickert. Do you think he really wants to come back and be head coach at Washington State? I couldn't believe how many Cougs came out of the woodwork wanting to fire the guy. And then I started thinking, man, he gets frustrated with fans not showing up. I mean, there were so many empty seats for that last game, and understandably so. But what do you think the temperature is on Jake Dickert and whether he wants to come back or not?
I think he does want to come back. I think he has some frustrations, and I think understandably so. I mean, the fan turnout, Wyoming game notwithstanding, was not very good this year. And he always, thanked everyone for coming out and said all the right things. But I think it doesn't take a rocket scientist to look at the crowd, especially after halftime, and think, wow, this is probably pretty frustrating. You're 8-1, you're 7-1. I mean, I look at the Utah State game. They're 7-1 going into that game. Yeah, the weather wasn't great. The crowd was still pretty sparse. And look, I get this past weekend. It's not the Apple Cup. It's a long trek from Seattle to Pullman in the end of November to not face the Huskies. You lost 2 in a row. I understand some of the frustrations, but, 17,000 still is weak. That all being said, I think he is so invested into this program that I don't think the frustration is going to get to a point where he says, I just don't want to coach here anymore. I think there's always, again, the scenario. There's always the job, the dollar sign. I don't think we're at that point, though. To the point of people wanting him fired, I think is quite honestly asinine. I get the frustrations, and I think he gets the frustrations. He said himself, I understand why people are frustrated. Put it on me. And I think he gets that they've got to figure out a way to close the seasons out better. I mean, they had the October issues. They quelled those this year, and then they struggled in November. But, I think to go 8-4 at Washington State with this current landscape, schedule or not, you're not firing an 8-4 coach at Washington State. It's just never going to happen. I don't care if you're Jake Dickert. I don't care if you played 8 FCS schools or 12 FCS schools and went 8-4. You go 8-4 at Washington State with the history of this school. That's good enough for, at least another year. So I don't understand that argument. I get, again, the frustrations. I get that people don't like the way the season ended. They didn't like the way the season ended, but I don't think he's trying to leave, and I don't think there's a scenario in which he's not the head coach next season.
Jamie, question for you. Just, Puck, if I could do one more, I'd appreciate it. I go back almost to 1979-80 at Washington State. They've been bitching about the crowd all the way back to those days. It always is. It's Pullman. I mean, it doesn't matter who we're playing. Usually they like to come down and watch who the other team is, not necessarily the Cougs. So this is not an argument that's been going on since last Thursday. This is a historical deal from that perspective. Crowds across the United States, and I'm going to thank every one of those guys and gals that showed up in that stadium. It was loud at the end. They were getting after it. It was fun as hell. I stood on the sidelines for 4 freaking hours watching that stupid thing, and I was glad I was there. And I'll tell you right now, I was proud of our crowd. Whether it was 2 people or 17,000 or 80,000, who gives a shit? They were there. They took the time to show up. And when you're playing and you're coaching, you're not looking up in the stands and counting butts. You're doing stuff like that. My question, 7 guys in the top 2 or 3, are seniors with regards of not coming back. Only 17 seniors on this team. We had 28 seniors my senior year in 1981. So this is relatively a young team, and they do a great job of recruiting, especially letter of intent, or whatever it is now coming up, and they're going after the high school kids and then filling the holes with the transfer portal. So looking at this team as a young team with an ability to fill holes, this has a potential to be pretty good depending on who you can keep.
I would agree with that. Hey, Jamey, I want to thank you all season long for joining us. I know we'll probably do another emergency one. So, if we have to, once we learn the terrible news that Mateer's in the portal, we could probably reconvene. But we want to thank you all year long for joining us. Appreciate it. Go find all of Jamey's work up at CougFan.com. Go support it. The guy who works his ass off. He's writing multiple stories every single day, and he'll be all over. The coordinating search there for both an offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, and Mateer Watch. We got to get a sounder for that. Jamey, appreciate it, man.
Yep, appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, Jamey. Go Cougs.
Go Cougs.
That was the Go Cougs. Yeah, Jamey, he put up with us all year long. Well, I was surprised, and we haven't touched on it. I was maybe I shouldn't be surprised. I was surprised with the amount of vitriol after that game for those, and maybe I'm getting too much credit to people on social media on Twitter that wanted and still want Jake Dickert fired. You guys?
Yeah, I was.
Jamie's still there, stuck on the video.
Frustration level. You want to talk about what did I do something wrong again?
No,
it was Jamey trying to get off the thing.
Oh, no, I'm with you, Puck. I don't want to see Jake Dickert fired. Has it reached that point? The people that bothered me the most were the ones that don't want to be Cougs anymore. I'm like going, Jesus fucking Christ, are you kidding me? I still want to be a Coug. That's one of the proudest things I've ever done is go to Washington State for 4 years. Love my time there. I love my school. And people are always, there's other people going, God, I'm embarrassed to be a Coug. I'm like, really? Well, shit, give up your Coug card then. If you want to talk about Dickert getting fired or fire this person or whatever, that's fine. I don't care. But when you reach a point of saying, I don't want to be a Coug anymore, I didn't feel that way Saturday night. I'm still proud to be a Coug. Whenever we lose, over the 50 years I've been a Coug, every Monday I make a point of wearing something that's got this logo on it. This logo right here, because I'm proud of my damn school. I'm sorry it didn't work out toward the end of the season and we didn't make the playoff and everything. But if you want to fire Dickert, that's your opinion. That's fine. But God, be loyal to the Cougs. Come on, man. You got to stick with us. We've had worse years than this one.
Oh yeah,
haven't we, Paul?
Yeah, we have. We have USC taking a knee on the 5-yard line up 45-0 against Paul Wolf teams.
Yeah, that was
half.
That was rock bottom.
That's where you can pretty much hit the rock and the bottom of the deal.
I would say this to those, and again, maybe it's a vocal minority. He's 23-20 and basically 3.5 years on the job, and there is no other coach in college in the history of this sport that has taken over a program, especially a program like that, under the circumstances that he did as a first-year head coach. This was it, right? He takes over for Nick Rolovich because of that whole issues that he went through.
Thing, yeah,
and he goes 3-3 that year. He finishes strong, wins the Apple Cup, destroys Washington the Apple Cup, whatever. They'll use the excuse we were, all the lame duck season, all that, whatever. They won the game. Okay, so then he goes through. You look at the 22 season. You bring in now we're into this whole brand new world of the NIL. and the transfer portal. So now, as a first-year coach who's still trying to get his feet under him, like, what are we doing? Like, how do I put a game plan together? How do I do all this stuff, right? I mean, he has an idea of it. Now he's got to now be introduced to a whole new world of college football where it's just open free agency. So then he's got to deal with that. Cam Ward, Eric Morrissey, and you get
new coordinators. He had to hire both offensive and defensive coordinators.
Meanwhile, when you're dealing with the fallout of 21, you're dealing with a quarterback that stabbed you in the back. Okay, who lied to your face and said, "Oh, I'm stuck in Hawaii and can't get out," when you're meeting with Jedfish in Tucson. And so he's got to deal with that. And then so this is all that what he's going through in the first year on his job. Then he's got to deal with that guy who quits at halftime, just taps out, gets into a fight at halftime with players because he's quit. They've got to insert. Who was the kid they inserted?
He was from Archbishop Murphy, wasn't he?
They insert this kid who, he could hit water if he fell out of a boat throwing the ball. And you're like, Jesus. And, so he gets through that. Then he gets through the whole, it's the Cam Ward, it's the Eric Morris, debacle. You had to hire a new defensive coordinator.
Well, who's that other guy, the big fat dude, Tracy? Remember him? He tapped out halfway through the season as well as a DC.
Yeah, but that's
not
earlier?
Him.
That's earlier. Because
okay.
Dickert was
it all rolls together.
That was with
fat dude. Was that necessary?
Tracy, no,
I was describing, a beanbag joke.
Clay's was with Mike Leach, and then you get into 2023, right? And it's the collapse of the conference. I think it's unbelievable. And he has to deal with that, the collapse of the conference and everything. You go through that. So I don't know. I think that.
I think, Puck, to sum it up for you, I think you're hitting the nail on the head on this deal. And Jim, I think this answers your question. When you look at what adversity does. I lost my father last week. Okay, it put a lot of things in perspective for me because we've all been around when you lose family members and things like that. It changes how you look at stuff. And yet what it also does is it also makes you realize we're idiots to basically be so entrenched into this goofy game and to follow these 18 to 24-year-old kids with all the ups and downs and crazy stuff. But it's also our passion. It's what we love. And it's something that makes life enjoyable, whether it's the betting line or whether it's the X's and the O's or whether it's hosting, a podcast along those lines. It really is what we are true to. And I think that's what Jake has done. Jake has put in and inserted himself in this program, good or bad. He's also won 2 Apple Cups out of 4. Could have been 3 without maybe a call or two on that last reverse play that the Huskies were able to get that first down and then go down and eventually kick the game winner. He could have won 3 out of 4 Apple Cups. Think about that. So there's a lot of incredible stuff that he's done. And I think we need to cut him some slack. And people that don't understand that, they can go pound sand. Well, I think we get it.
And I would say this. I think there is room for him to grow as a head coach. He's 41 years old. Again, really 3 years on the job. And there's something to be said. He's never done this before. A lot of these guys that get jobs, even at Washington State, right? These aren't first-year head coaches. These are guys that have cut their teeth at lower levels, have built programs, built philosophies, something that has worked for them, and then they get to that step. Mike Price, Weber State, it's Dennis Erickson, University of Idaho,
Wyoming.
Yeah, it's
before he got to Washington.
And then you get to that step. He jumped right into it. And I was talking to Canzano this week because Trent Bray's the same way at Oregon State. I think, Jim, what would benefit him the most. And I threw this name out there, and again, I'm just throwing names out there. Dennis Erickson. He needs to have some veteran coach. Doesn't have to be Dennis Erickson. It was the first name that came to my mind. But he needs to find, whether it's the coordinators or someone else, he needs someone on that staff that can help him navigate through coaching game plans, and all of it, because he doesn't have that and hasn't had that. Jim, the whole time he's been a head coach, he's had these young assistants, young coordinators. I think he needs to get away from that.
Yeah, no, that's a fair point, Puck. But you're right. All these other coaches, even the veteran coaches, all the NIL stuff and the transfer portal, it's new to them too. And so for him to navigate what he's had to navigate with everything that's going on, being a first-time head coach. To me, like, why would you want to fire him? You should be thanking him. This guy is sticking around through thick and thin, being a Coug, and I go back to Pat Chun. Well, he bailed, and I love people like Jake Dickert that value the small town and value. I sense, I'm hoping I'm right, that he wants to see this through to at least 2026 when the new Pac-12 starts its first season. And, there's something really to be said for everybody, a guy like that to stick in there and not just bail when the going, when the going gets tough, all that crap. I really appreciate him for that.
Jim, I love your analogy on Pat Chun. You know who he is? He's that rich guy on the Titanic that grabs a little kid to get on the lifeboat while the boat is freaking sinking and his family's on it, and he's the first guy to try to save his ass. That's what he reminded me of when he did what he did, leaving Washington, State to go to Washington. And, good on him. He improved he wanted to get in the Big Ten. He did it.
No good on him.
But to do it that way, he should have gone like Arizona first. If you'd have gone anywhere else and then gone to Washington, you wouldn't have Coug fans so pissed off. That's why we were so mad, because of the circumstance, the timing, and the fact that it was the UW.
What do you guys want? Okay, I've said this and didn't get my wish the last time we went around when we had to replace Eric Morse. I want to move away from the air raid. I'm done with it. I'm done with it. I just think it does not fit him as a coach. And I think he needs to evolve, and he needs to find a coordinator that can bring more balance to the football team. I understand the players they've recruited fit that system, but you can switch. If I can watch these other programs who are, if I can watch Idaho 8 miles away play a style of football offensively that I like, then so can Washington State. So they can too. And if Boise State can play that style of football, so can you. They need to get back to more of a balanced offensive approach. I hope, dear God, that he hires someone that is more multiple, that invests in a running game, actually uses the tight end, and gets away from the air raid.
You know what offense would work for this team? And I would disagree a little bit on the air raid-ish kind of stuff. Washington State can recruit receivers and running backs. It may be some tight ends, maybe not as good as UW and Oregon, but they can get skilled guys. They need to incorporate this in there. But the offense that I would like to see? Mike Price, Dennis Erickson ran it, a one-back spread.
Yeah.
Okay? And have physical offensive linemen, have a tight end in there. You can do multiple formations, but it's a run-based, play-action pass, kind of deal where they still threw it all over the field.
Of course they did.
When they had to beat UCLA in 89 in the Rose Bowl, and they basically held Aikman, 4 pops inside the 10 and then got the ball back, went 90 yards and took a knee on the 1, they ran 12 straight plays. Ran the ball, shoved it right up UCLA's ass, and won the game on national television.
I'm tired
of being the kind of team we need.
Jeff, I'm tired of being in shotgun 100% of the time. Tired of watching it.
No, I understand that. We've talked about it before. Some coaches have come in and said, to win in Pullman, you need to run the ball in November when it's cold, and so I can see that. But to Paul's point, and Puck, we talked about that yesterday. It just seems like it's just something. It's easier to recruit guys, the skill positions and the quarterbacks. And I don't know if we can ever get to the point that you want to get to, Puck.
Yeah, no, see, I agree, Jim.
I disagree. They already did it. They did it earlier. They did it under Mike Price.
Without NIL, though.
I understand that, but
the good linemen, guess where they go? They follow the money.
That was almost 30 years ago.
But there are a lot of linemen that are under-recruited that can get it. Again, I'll just cite 2 teams. Idaho plays that style, and Boise State plays that style.
You have a once-in-a-lifetime running back at Boise State, and you have a hell of a coach in Eck in terms of what he did to turn that Idaho program.
But they've always played that way. But Boise State's always played that way. Always. I'm just telling you, I know it's fun to throw it around 50 times a game. I'm just telling you, you will not consistently win when you just do that. And it's an attitude. It's an attitude of those linemen that they recruit, because they recruit finesse linemen. They do. They need to
recruit. Wasn't that appealing about Arbuckle? Didn't he have a running component?
No,
to his,
I remember.
Didn't he come in and we thought, okay, he's going to run the ball more than Leach did?
He didn't. The only reason their running numbers look good this year, the only reason, is because of the quarterback. That's it. I mean, and how many of those runs were designed versus scrambles? I mean, it's, he was a once in a life, he's
it'd be nice if we got a coordinator that, had the running game, just if for nothing else, to keep Wayshawn Parker. Because that guy's a possible star in the making, Puck. You know back in the spring.
The last three quarterbacks to do it, Mateer just did. Jackson, Tebow, and the idiot that starts for Tampa Bay that did the money sign at Texas A&M.
Baker Mayfield.
Baker Mayfield. So Mateer is in that company in terms of over 800 yards rushing and over 3,000 yards passing. That's pretty. That's big deal.
I get the reason you go to the air raid, Jim. You and I talked about this the other day. The reason you go to it is the exact reason in high school you run the triple option or the wing T, is because you have smaller players. And you don't have big linemen, and you can deceive, manipulate the defense and all that. And that's what the air raid is. The air raid is you don't have big physical players. You get all these small little wide receivers out there, and you pitch it all around all over the place. The problem is everybody runs it now. There's not a secret to it anymore. And I just think that knowing Dickert a little bit and where he came from, and his background in defense and offense too, because he was a wide receiver in college, is that I think he needs and wants. How many times in a post game did he talk about running the ball more? God, it's every post game. We need to run the ball more. We need to run the ball more. I mean, look at the last drive, against Wyoming. Had they been effective in running the ball, they would have that's a 4-minute offense that marches down the field, controls the clock. Maybe if you don't score, you give Wyoming the ball back with 30 seconds. But their inability to pick up 3rd and 2, 4th and 1, that's embarrassing.
Well, again, it's. And I think that's where the New Mexico coaching staff did a really nice job, is they tailored their offense to what the dudes that they had, and hey, back in the Stone Age, we're going to go back there again. We had Ricky Turner, who was the runner. He could still throw, but he was a runner. He was a 4-5 guy. And we had Clete Casper, who couldn't run out of the shower, but he could throw the ball. So they alternated the two to try to give you a different mix. That's exactly what you have now. You have these quarterbacks that are run-based, that can throw the football and do some really cool stuff that way. So, I think you got to mix and match your personnel with your philosophy. I agree on the air raid where you can't win games throwing it 90 times. It's really fun and it sells tickets. You've got to be able to, if you need a first down and you need 2 yards, you got to have an offensive line and a fullback and another guy that can get you 2 yards. And that was something that was hard for us to come by, especially in the last month.
Especially in these short yardage situations when you have a quarterback that is as athletic and mobile as he is.
He's beat up right now.
100%.
I'm telling you, don't carry the ball 250 times or whatever the hell he did and not have some bumps and bruises.
And there's a couple of plays in the Wyoming game he didn't get away from people.
Caught.
Yeah.
So anyway, but this was fun, and the sponsors, all the great sponsors. We appreciate you putting us 2 pudding heads on. Okay, 1 pudding head. Sorry, we've got a homeless guy and a pudding head, so we're good. On that front. But this was fun. It was just fun to be able to exercise the demons, because I've got the 24-hour rule, when I get angry after a loss, but it's kind of stretching into 48 hours now, which is perfect because it rolls right into this podcast. So that's what makes it fun for us and cathartic.
So now we may reconvene once we get through the portal. Maybe get through the bowl game, which is just going to be terrible because, it should be celebrated even though the end of the season that they may play in the Holiday Bowl. But, my God, the Holiday Bowl is on the 27th of December and the portal's to the 28th. It's just the uncertainty of where we're at. And Disappointing. There was a great way to finish this season, and they
I'm unfortunately
go.
My brother lives in Escondido. I'm going to the Holiday Bowl this year if that's where it's at, and we can go play in the sandbox, and maybe that'll slow Clemson down or whoever the heck they face. Sure. And you know what? These seniors deserve it, and let's elevate those guys that have given everything to this program. And the gut-wrenching losses that those guys had when they had to walk off that field, mine never went away. It's still I had PTSD after watching those guys and how they felt after losing that game on Saturday in Pullman.
All right, there it is. Paul Sorensen, Jim Moore. The Old Crimson Podcast is in the books. Big thanks to our sponsors all season long. Cougar Collective, go donate if you can. $18.90 a month. That's all it costs. If you want to just get on the ground level, QR code on your screen will take you right there. You can also just make a one-time donation. Your business, you can collaborate on your brand. You can go and find in your nearest store, find the Old Crimson Legendary Lager. It's brewed by Pike Brewing. Sales benefit the Cougar Collective. And again, cougarcollective.org. And Andy Largent, big thanks, Andy. Been a fine partner and a sponsor, not only this, just the entire new venture here we've had at Puck Sports, but 6 great locations across the state: Kirkland, Pioneer Square, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. They got you covered for everything. Flatstickpub.com. All right, well, we may do it in the off season. We'll figure it out. Go Cougs! Let's hear it. Let's hear it, Jim.
Go Cougs!
There you go. Well, we can get your basketball question next time, all right?
Go Cougs. Thank you, sponsors, and thank you, listeners, for tuning in, even though we're goofballs.
Okay. Find it up on YouTube when you're there. Please like and subscribe to the YouTube show. Also, check it out, Apple, Spotify, wherever you find your podcast. And, of course, always up at pucksports.com. If it's fun you desire, it's fun you're going to get at Flat Stick Pub. It doesn't matter what the occasion is, whether it's date night, guys night, ladies night, or large group event, Flat Stick Pub's got you covered. They have 6 great locations across the Pacific Northwest, from Pioneer Square to Kirkland, South Lake Union, Spokane, Bellingham, and Redmond. All locations offer the best pub experience in Washington. 2 rules at Flat Stick Pub: drink local and have fun. Pretty simple. So if you like to have fun, love local beer, and great tasting food, make Flat Stick Pub your next spot. Visit them at flatstickpub.com.